Hello, everyone, and welcome to a episode of Security Confidential. I am co-host Rory Michael with co-host
Chris Kazel.
There you go. Filling in, I want to say filling in for Manoj Tandon. I feel like that's due since he's the main host. So a little different podcast for you today. Obviously, number one, we are in the stew here at the HQ in Dublin, Ohio. Back at it again. You might recognize us from our last video.
Smash hit, slam dunk, defense in depth walkthrough.
Yes, sir. And I was honestly just thinking I was wearing the exact same shirt in that video as I am right now. We double checked, I'm not, so it is confirmed I do own more than one collared shirt, which is cool. Always good to know.
Yep. Unique drip today.
Yeah, right. Fresh. So, in today's episode of Security Confidential, instead of having some really awesome guest on here who has a ton of life experience and industry knowledge of whatever it is that they do, Chris and I are just going to kind of bullshit about some news events in the cyber world and other news events that we see, and just kind of maybe we can make you laugh. We'll probably be laughing a lot because it's going to be ridiculous. But that's kind of the gist of this, just to be a little easier, lighthearted. I guess you could call this your non-mainstream news outlet.
There you go.
Reporting not live, because you're gonna watch this some predestined time from now.
Maybe someday it can be live.
Maybe someday it'll be live, but yeah. So what's the week? What is this week? April something?
Today's the 14th.
Okay, so this is Friday, April 14th right now. So we're doing things from this week and previous weeks that we've kind of just seen in the news and have thought they've been pretty funny. Yeah. So what do you got for us, Chris?
Well, we've got a bunch of things. We share all these articles every week about, like, security related, kinda. Some of them are a bit of a stretch, but like there's an old story from a couple weeks ago that sort of ties into a ridiculous one from this week that's in all the news. So I'll set the stage and you follow it up with how it ties in.
All right, I can do that.
Okay, sweet. So if you're not familiar, there's this game. It's a PC game called War Thunder. Maybe we can show something on screen here, but it's like a vehicular combat sort of game, and it's played online. So a bunch of people playing, a bunch of like boomers playing it essentially. And so like it's vehicular combat. So you're piloting some kind of like tank or some kind of airplane, some kind of vehicle, right? So some kind of war-related vehicle. And basically, a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you would have seen this in the news or not, but there's people from like China and Scandinavia, people from Eastern Europe, the Slavic regions. They're all talking about like, this vehicle doesn't do enough damage, and I know because I worked on one when I was in the armed forces, yada yada. So they're absolutely insane. So they're like, all these old guys are. I assume they're older gentlemen just from the way that I've seen them write on the forums, but they might not all be older folks, but
they might just be foreign.
Yeah, they might just be foreign, so not speak best English. But they're basically like arguing that my tank from Ukraine or something like this doesn't do enough damage. And they're taking all these classified government documents, like confidential schematics of tanks and planes, yada yada. They're taking them, they're posting them on the thing and being like, the shell comes out of the I don't even know what the term is for like the turret on the main gun. Yeah. The shell comes out of the main gun at so and so meters per second, and basically they're arguing on the forums about buffs for their vehicles so that they can win this game and that's more realistic. And they're all sharing classified documents, so everybody's getting in trouble for sharing these things, and the forum's banning you for sharing government secrets online, that kind of thing. So then that's what happened in the last few weeks, maybe a month or so ago. This was in the news a lot, maybe a month or two.
Yeah, I think it was like February when it really broke. But they've been doing that since June is what I had
Okay.
read,
Yeah.
discovered, whatever.
And the posts aren't there anymore. So if you're trying to see like classified information, you can't anymore. But it was out there at one point.
Yeah, but the lid really got blown off the top, I think. There's a good video on YouTube if you want to watch it. It's by this dude. His channel's called Angry Cops. It's probably one of the more recent posts. But anyways, he talks about it. They were posting like the specifications to the F-16 fighter jet that's obviously supposed to be classified, and all its different systems and stuff, like its GPS, how it knows where it is in the sky, how it targets enemies and stuff.
Okay.
So like clearly information that you wouldn't want your enemies to know, because they can just figure out then how to counteract that system. But they were posting stuff like that to prove their point that this jet doesn't fire according to how it's actually made.
So that they can win in War Thunder. But then how does that bring us into today?
Well, now in today, so this week, if you've been paying attention to the news at all, I'm sure will have seen all the hype around these leaked documents from the CIA, different government agencies pertaining to like the war in Ukraine, how we're spying on our allies, just a whole bunch of different stuff. And the whole gist of it is that these documents were posted on an online server in a Discord, very similar to what was going on with these other classified documents in War Thunder. So this has been obviously a problem going on for months now, 8 or 9 months, to where clearly there's some drop in government ability to
control the data.
Control their data, control who has access to their documents and what's going on with it, and who's posting it where and for what reasons. And the most recent leaker, it just today or last night, whatever, they caught him. Not that really matters. What really does matter, though, is the information that was in all these documents. I would highly suggest everyone to check out the YouTube channel Breaking Points and any of their coverage on this week from these articles from these classified documents has been fantastic, kind of breaking down what was in a lot of them, because that is the main point of the story, not really who leaked it.
So I haven't seen any of the content. I've only seen that they arrested the guy on Good Morning America.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. So like the main MSN, they've been pushing the big narrative that like the whole problem is we gotta find this guy who leaked these articles, not what's actually in these articles.
Not the content.
Yeah, and this Breaking Point show, they've been covering what's in the content.
Okay.
And they've gotten about 50 of these documents sent to them by people who had access to them, and they've gone through them and are reporting on them and what's been them and what they actually say and this and that. So it's been really fascinating.
But the gist of it wasn't that he was doing like the public service. It was the same thing with War Thunder, where he's trying to argue for his thing to be buffed.
Yeah, basically, it was just like him and his buddies talking to each other, trying to stay informed. Maybe shit talking, maybe trying to prove a point, whatever. But yeah, that was the whole reason why they were posting them. Not to like undermine society. It wasn't like an Edward Snowden thing where he was like trying to whistleblow. It was literally just like, if I had some information that was supposed to be classified and I was like, yo, Chris, check out this document.
Because on the news, they portray it like it's some like defector, not defective, like leaking all these documents, that kind of thing. They don't really tell them that it came from Discord.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that is not the truth of it at all. But
interesting. I'll have to read the content.
Yeah, definitely.
Are they still out there? Do you know?
I think they're trying to scrub them, obviously, the government, from any server. So they're not in places where they were. But if there's people like these Breaking Points people and other media journalists, they probably have copies of whatever they were sent on their private system that's offline. But that'd be the only place you could find. And what I heard was, I don't want to get this number too wrong, but I think there was over 175 documents originally posted to the Discord, and they've only been able to recover about 50 of them.
Okay, so they're still out there.
So there's still a lot. There's still a lot out there somewhere.
Interesting.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
Plain schematics. I wonder how that even happens because, like, I mean, I'm sure everybody's remote. Not everybody's going to be remote in government offices, but I'm sure a certain capacity are. And, like, you have some kind of device from the government. There's nothing that. I just wonder how that gets out there because, like, they would know if you put Discord on your government laptop, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. From the little tiny experience that I've had with it, like, dude, you weren't even allowed to plug your phone into the computer to charge it. So, like, I mean, I don't know.
But how does that even get out there? Like, are they emailing it to themselves or something, the personal email?
I don't know. Honestly, from what I've heard, like how it's been explained on Breaking Points, is that what the guy posted to the Discord were pictures taken of the documents. So it sounds like he printed off the documentation, took it back to his house, took photos of it, and then returned it.
Well, and that's a red flag right there this day and age. Nobody uses a printer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I haven't printed anything in years.
Right. I know.
See,
Crazy.
printers should be blocked on government machines.
They should be. They should be. What else you got, news-wise?
There's two giant governments collecting all your information, right? I feel like whether you're doing something illegal or not, the U.S. government can take your information and act on it and screw you over, essentially, right? They can use this to, like, place you in this day. They use it to surveil you.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If my information goes to the Chinese government, what do they do with that impacts me directly? You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying.
In the case that both are capturing it, like, you've already foregone your right to privacy. They're both getting it, but one can do something with it and one can't.
Right.
So my opinion was I would rather have the Chinese government, even though I'm not committing crimes or anything, right? If you have to choose one to go to, why would it be the one that can directly impact your life and, I don't know, survey you? The same thing I said. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally see exactly what you're saying. And I think it's very foolish to think, if anyone does think this still, that the American government doesn't use your information to its advantage, I'll say.
No.
You know, so we know that they're doing that, right? We know that they're collecting data on us.
Like, does it go to the IRS or something?
Right. I think, honestly, in my opinion, and this is probably a hot take too, but the only difference between the U.S. government right now and the Chinese Communist Party when it comes to collecting data on its citizens is that China is upfront about it and they don't care to say that they collect their data, they censor the internet, all that shit. The U.S. uses Silicon Valley companies to act as its front in collecting this data.
And, like, giant terms and conditions that you don't read.
Yeah, you don't read. And like, what was that the term and condition with Apple?
If you smoke, it voids your Apple warranty. Is that the one?
No, the one if you're like a criminal or something, you can. It was something with Apple, but it was some crazy. If when you buy an iPhone, you promise not to make bombs or something.
You can't use
like
it to develop
that.
nuclear weapons.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff like that.
Yeah,
like
see.
Nobody reads that.
iTunes gift cards.
That was it. With iTunes gift cards, if you use an iTunes gift card, do they even make iTunes
The
gift
terms
cards
and
anymore?
conditions, it says you cannot use these products to design, manufacture, or production of nuclear, missile, chemical, or biological weapons.
With an iTunes gift card.
There you go.
See? Nobody knew that because it's buried in the terms and conditions.
That's what I mean. And oh, dude, so I'm gonna plug this article. If you watched this far, I commend you for sticking around and actually watching to listen to our nonsense. So that means you must have some interest in either Chris and I or Dark Rhino, which is cool. Either way.
Props.
But you have to check out this article. I highly recommend it. Oh crap, where'd it go? I spent all day reading this today. It took me like 2.5 hours to read this thing. It's called A Guide to Understanding the Hoax of the Century. And it's called The Tablet, which is, I learned today too, is a Tablet is a Jewish magazine about the world.
Okay.
We produce everything basically, and they report on all sorts of things. But this article is totally awesome, and it talks all about how America has become a total censor-ridden country, all under the guise of disinformation protection. Starting with, and it all kind of started back in 2014 with Obama's campaign and his party, not his campaign, but his initiatives that he was pushing. And basically it sums it up that the ruling class right now is in total control of the government and the tech companies, and are using those two things to their advantage no matter what. And the idea of disinformation is only disinformation when it's not in line with their
narrative.
Yes, their narrative.
Yeah.
So it's a crazy read. It's pretty long, but what I do like about it is that everything is cited from a source.
Okay.
All his information, all his take. This isn't like an opinion piece. This is a sourced information.
Okay. It's not an editorial.
No, it's not an editorial at all. I'm not going to say that it's fact for fact, but it's sourced. And
can we link it in the description box below?
Yeah, can we do that, Emily? Okay, well, we will link this in the description box below. I highly suggest you read it. Because I'm a big believer of, if you're not questioning what you're being forced down your throat, you're probably swallowing some stuff you shouldn't.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You know,
and I'll just as a disclaimer say, I think Rory and I both agree we don't want any government to have our information, right?
No,
I'm
not
just
at
making
all.
the distinction that if I had to choose one to give it to at this point in time, it would be China.
Right. No, I totally agree with what you're saying there, and I'll tie you into this. This ties in perfectly, actually. I read earlier this week. So, Russia is pushing a bill through its parliament.
Okay.
It's not really parliament over there. They can do whatever they want. But anyways, they're pushing a bill through their parliament that would change the way that soldiers get drafted into their army, to where they're able to legally notify you electronically that you have been drafted. From that point, you have 20 days to report to the draft office and enlist and be shipped off to the front.
Rather than the old way of doing it, which was receiving a letter in the mail or something?
Not even. The old way of doing it was you had to be notified in person. So the same way that you get served here in America, someone had to physically hand you the document that was like, hey, you've been drafted, you have 20 days to report, and that you took possession of it was the notification that you acknowledged that you received this notice. Now they're trying to do it so that all they have to do is send you this email. I don't know if it's an email for sure, but electronically notified. All they have to do is send this to you. If you don't report in 20 days, they ban your driver's license, they ban your passport, they take away your ability to sell and own property.
I see.
So basically, you become a criminal in 20 days for not reporting. And this is all ties back into the idea of they have your data, they have your information, so they know where you are, they know where you live, they know what you're trying to do.
So you're saying the U.S. could do that to us?
I'm saying,
yeah,
man, I'm saying it would be very, very easy to do. We get into a full-blown war. I mean, look at any headlines in the news right now talking about military efforts in the United States. Recruiting is down in all the branches. People are getting out left and right. we're out of arms, basically. We're sending it all over to Ukraine. So if we do get into something, there will be a draft, without a doubt. And if this is going to work over in Russia with them just drafting people in electronically.
Well, that'd be bad, actually, because if I got my draft notice from my spam email.
That's what I mean. So that's what I mean. And then they have all this information already, right? So they have all the information that pertains to who you are, where you are, your credit, you're this, you're that. So your ability to take out a loan would be gone. Your ability to sell your house will be gone. Your ability to drive legally will be gone.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. China wouldn't draft me, so like.
Well, right. How could they, right? So I get your point big time. If China has your information, sure, it's bad, but what are they going to do to you?
That's the thing. It's a bit of a gray area because we don't really know what they're doing with it. If they're like making some kind of virus to target me specifically, that's one thing. But I don't really know what they're doing with it, so my opinion might change. But just like at a glance, a 1,000-foot view, I feel like my data's weirdly safer.
I feel like this is one of those things that like you feel like you really shouldn't have had to say. Like people should have been smart enough to figure this out, but here we are.
It's kind of a normie one, in my opinion.
I agree. If you haven't heard, and if you don't know, you heard now, and now you know. Don't plug your phone into random public USB charging ports because your phone can get a virus. Shocker.
Yeah, they're talking about like straight, going in dry to the like USB port rather than going through your like 2-prong in the US charger to an actual outlet, which makes sense. But yeah, I guess I don't know enough about iPhones, but I know when I plug I have my first iPhone right now. I had Androids for like the last 10 years. But when I plug it into my computer, it says on my computer, do I want to allow the iPhone to access the computer?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Is the reverse true when you plug your iPhone into a PC?
See, I think it would be. And I think if you did it right, you could set up a public charging port to where you would be able to grab every phone's information that got plugged in like that.
Yeah, but what I don't get is like it asks you if you want to allow the iPhone to access your PC. On the phone. Shouldn't it give you a prompt like, do you want this to allow this PC to interact with your phone?
I think ideally you would think that's how it works. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But I would assume that it knows that it's your phone and your PC. So they're both signed in as your iCloud. That would be what I would think.
Okay.
But the caveat here I think would be if you took like your phone right now and you plugged it into Emily's laptop, MacBook, right? Yeah. What it would do. Then we would know for sure.
Yeah, because it's just odd to me because you get prompted on the PC, do you want to allow access, but you don't receive some kind of thing on the phone like, do you want to allow this thing to install a bunch of malware on your iPhone?
Right.
I would assume that there would be a prompt there. I know, sorry to get into this, but I know Mac OS is like a Unix-based system. It has permissions on what you can and can't do as a regular user. I would assume the phone would work that same way.
Right.
And you would need to be like an root or an administrator to install stuff on the iPhone. I don't understand how just plugging it in could make it work. And again, I'm not an expert on the iPhones. I have very little knowledge on them, but it just is weird to me that there's no check. Like, do you want to allow this PC to interface with your device? It should have some kind of prompt.
It should be a two-way street.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know that much about them, but something we could test. We have to test the Riot Games client too to see what information is being sent to China.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, we can add that to the docket, and that'll be coming out soon for you people. We can post that. We're gonna.
Yeah, we should send that. Next week we can test it.
Test the Riot Games thing and.
What permissions does a PC have when you plug an iPhone into it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than.
Flip-flop.
Yeah.
Reverse.
Because one way's safe, but the other one, it doesn't make sense to me that it wouldn't be protected.
Right, and if it's not protected, then for sure people would have the capability to take everything that's on your phone the second you plug it into a public charging station.
Yeah, and then that opens the thing, like if you steal somebody's iPhone, it's pretty much impossible at this point in time to get into their account, right, unless you know the code.
Right.
But if all you have to do is plug into a PC and there's something out there that basically unlocks it in that capacity, you're just
Right, because if you plug your phone in, you steal someone's phone, you plug it into what the phone thinks is a charging station, but really it can gather the information.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it's really just a PC that you're plugging into at that point.
Right.
Okay, well, we'll keep you posted on that one.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think that's about all I have off the dome.
Yeah, I can't think of anything too crazy either.
Stew's done cooking, I think.
Yeah, I think the stew's been marinating long enough, and we are ready to hop out the pot.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Security Confidential. If you like more clips, or if you like this clip and you want to see more like this, let us know in the comments. If you hated this clip and you think Chris and I need to stop doing podcasts, let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Either way, write something. All right. Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.